Hi, Brett Rousseau at Hoyt Arboretum. Today I'm going to talk about how to water a young tree for establishment. There are some general guidelines you can follow. For a smaller tree, you can give it about 5 to 10 gallons of water per week. If it's a larger tree, more like a 2-inch caliper, they're going to want more water, like 10 to 20 gallons per week. And so you should be watering once a week for the first 2 to 3 years in the ground during our dry months, which in Portland, that's going to be June, July, August, September, sometimes into October, depending on the season and if we haven't gotten any good saturating rains yet. Some other things to think about: if your tree is newly in the ground, you're going to want to be watering where the roots are. So if it's a new planting, it's going to be where that root ball is, which is pretty much at the base of the tree. Once it's been in the ground 1, 2, 3 years and the root tips are starting to push, you're going to want to start watering in that zone. Where you're watering is important so that the root tips are actually able to access the water and soak it up. Some other things that you can do to encourage water penetration is making sure that there's a berm around your tree with soil and mulch, and that's going to decrease water running off, running away from the tree. Some other things you can do are applying a good layer of mulch. So I've talked about this a number of times, but like a good 3 to 4 inches of an arborist wood chippy mulch is good. So something that's got like a good wood chip. If it's hemlock, bark mulch, Doug fir mulch, sometimes we put those in the landscape because they look good and they do offer weed suppression and protect the soil, but they also have a hydrophobic quality. So as you're watering your tree, if that's what you have kind of around the base of it, you're going to notice that the water is running off instead of penetrating. And really the goal with watering is that we're getting water where the roots are growing. I'm going around the edge. I like to concentrate watering around on the upslope, knowing that gravity is going to bring it down the hill. So I go around the edge. This has a nice berm on the base, a nice terrace, so the water is going to do a better job at staying around. If you don't have a watering cart in your home garden, there's some other options. You can be dragging hoses around. You can use a tree bag, and that attaches to the trunk of the tree and gives a slow drip. You can also take a 5-gallon bucket and drill holes in the bottom. That's a really great way to measure the quantity that you're watering and also to disperse it slowly. So you can fill this with either a bucket or the hose. And you can see there the water is coming out of the bottom. So want to put that, I like to put it on the upslope, knowing that gravity is going to move it downwards. And then next week I may move it to the other side of the tree so that we're making sure that we're getting good coverage. If the leaves are looking wilty, that means it's thirsty, and ideally we're watering before it gets to that point. Once a tree starts to look stressed, it can be hard to bring it back. So we want to be proactive in our watering and make sure those leaves are staying nice and green. Just keep that in mind, deep and frequent waterings. There is no one size fits all when it comes to watering your tree. You're going to want to do some observation and figure out what kind of soil you have. You're also going to want to know who it is you're watering, what the species is, and what their watering needs are. One way you can do that is do a little research as to where they grow in their native environment and take some clues off of that. For example, if they're a riparian tree, they're going to want more water than an oak savanna tree. It's going to be more drought resistant. So that's going to dictate how much water your tree is going to need to be happy. Some other things to think about are what your soil looks like, how quickly it drains, if it's more clayey, if it's more sandy. So I'd really encourage you to do some digging, do some watering, and see how the water responds in that localized area, and then kind of adjust as you go through the season. We've been watering for a minute, so I'm going to come and dig in and go, 6 inches for now. Ideally, you're watering to a depth of, maybe a foot, but that is looking pretty good and moist. So I would say that we watered adequately and effectively. If you dig down and it's still dry, you're going to either want to water more or change your watering technique.